Go.
Awesome. So we have episode 1, hopefully one of many, with Charlie. Coffee with Charlie. Cheers. Let's go. I think from our perspective, a massive thank you in helping us understand your business. You're certainly not shy and bullish around what you need, what you expect from partnership, and thank you for choosing us. I think from the text perspective, it's been roll up your sleeves, get your hand dirty, and for you as a leader and influencer, you've certainly influenced us to be better. And I think the story that I want to hear for the first question is just casting your mind back to the Mark Etchell's days and sharing what that means.
I think, what was really interesting when I started in the organisation in end of 2019, we were going through a period of, telephone outages and server outages, and, it's not because of technology, it's purely because of, we've got a mix and match of different vendors, being involved, and it was just not a perfect solution. And I'm, coming from 22 years in aviation, walking into that, I'm like, this is weird, right? This is not normal, right? So I remember I went out to the market and I'm like, we need something different. And I can't even remember how I spoke to. I think it was originally with Telstra, and then Telstra introduced me to Jeff. It was Jeff, and then he introduced me to Mark. And Mark, they invited me to. I think it's Telstra Vantage, and I would never forget it. But Mark Etchells walked up to me, and it was during a break, and we were having coffee, and he said, "Charl, we're not going to sell you anything. What we need to do is we need to make sure that we give you the tools to get to the table, so you can have an influence in the organisation." And I think that to me was the starting point of the relationship, because if there's one thing I hate is selling something to me.
Yeah,
and he
we're very aware. Get out.
Exactly. So, and he was not selling. He was always about, if you ever have any questions or anything, just give me a call, right? So just have a chat, right? So, and I think that has continued, and that's why this relationship is such a good relationship, because it's almost like it's not a work relationship. Work is almost secondary, because when I get a call or when I make a call, it's, hey, how was the weekend, or and then we talk about, oh, by the way, we also need to address this, or we need to address that. So I think absolutely that was probably the foundation of where we started, and where I knew this was the partnership that we need to cherish, and we need to continue on, because they never ever try to sell anything. They're like, hey, listen, we can just continue as normal, we can just not have meetings, we can, but if you ever need anything, just give us a call, even if it's personal, right? So if you need help. So, and I think that to me is important in any partnership.
And it's incredible, listening to Pete Whitburn and yourself chatting, and he gets out his phone. Yep. Do you want to tell the lovely viewers what he said?
Yeah, that was interesting. He's got 2 favourites in his phone, and both of them are Charlie, but Charlie wifey and Charlie, and he needs to be careful what he's sending and who he's calling. Is it his wife or is it myself, right? So, and luckily he hasn't sent me anything inappropriate, but at this stage I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
he needs more friends, I think. But at the same time, you're not wrong. And I think it goes back to what you originally said at our kickoff, and you sent a pretty bold message out there, and you challenged the status quo, which is quite inspiring in the tech world, because it's that kindness, it's the trust, but I think from what has happened historically and how much we've all been through, particularly in the last year, you're not afraid to get your hands dirty and lead from the front and learn something new, and you're in a dark room with servers and all these things. But I just go back to that very point around trust, is when you've got that relationship and something goes pear-shaped, you're not going to call someone and say, oh, hey, Charl, how are you? How's the weather? Say, hey, Peter, I need this done now.
Yeah.
This is, it's business critical, and that's what, it's when things don't go right that you need that, right? Yeah, so tell me about that.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. I even tell the guys in the office, I keep saying to them, try and do as much as you can on your own, right? So don't pick up the phone and make a call to start off with, because then who is learning and who is actually doing the job, right? So if you want to troubleshoot, and if you want someone to help you in a situation where you need them, you can't continue to cry wolf on the first call, right? Make sure that you've done everything. I mean, I've discussed this with Peter in the past and more recent as well. From a customer point of view, we need to prove that he's almost the last call, right? So, Peter, we've done this and we've done this, we believe this is a network issue. Can you help us? Because if you go to him and say, hey, listen, now, I believe I haven't done anything, we think it's a network, I would be annoyed at that, because next time I'm not picking up your call, because I'm saying, well, I actually want them to suffer on their own. Yeah. So I think it is important, but I try and do that to any vendor and to any customer, saying, hey, listen here, before we start the conversation, have you done this and this and this and this? Yeah. Because otherwise, you're wasting my time and potentially your own time. Because have you, I always use the term, IT 101. Have you restarted your business?
Yeah, have you turned it on and off?
Yeah, because it's such a weird statement, but it fixes 50% of your problems, right? So it just needs to restart, it needs to reconnect to the server or to the LAN or whatever that is. So I think I want, the way you want people to treat you, treat them the same, right? And it's with anything, with kindness, with helping someone. Just remember how you treated them the last time. Just remember you're going to be in that situation moving forward, right? Yeah. So, and I think that coming back to the discussion we had in Albion, that customer focus and what's important. To me, that's very important. That think about your own situation when you're helping someone else, right? So if I'm going to be rude to you today, next time you're in that situation, at a hospital, at a dentist, in a situation where you're vulnerable, if they're going to be rude to you, don't forget your day that you were rude to someone else, right? So because, unfortunately, the way it works is just, be kind to everybody else, and they will be kind to you, right? So, and not every single time, right? We're human beings. You have a bad day, you have busy day. So I get it when people are, you have an off day. Yeah. But in general, if we are going to continue to be kind to someone else, you would almost expect that. Absolutely. That and you would almost get it every single time. If someone drives in front of you, how many times do we see it nowadays, right? Yeah. You're like, oh, there's so much anger in you, and you're like, come on. All you needed to do was say thank you or put your indicator on, right? But I think turn it the other way around. I've seen a quote, someone wrote it down. I think it's almost on your whiteboard. Wave to them and say thank you. Yeah. They almost feel bad, right? So
kill them with kindness.
Exactly. And I think we need to do that in our jobs as well.
Absolutely.
And it's hard, right? So I mean, people will look at this, they're like, really? You're not always kind to us. But sometimes there's an old saying, right? You have to be cruel to be kind. Yeah. Have you done this? Yeah. Call me back if you've done that, right? Yeah. So, and sometimes that's all you want from them, right? Do your 20% or whatever, and then you call me.
Oh, Charl, you are more than kind. In fact, as we get to know you more, you're almost selfless. And I think the interesting thing is, you don't want to confuse accountability with being unkind, because in fact, when you're empowering someone and holding them to account, that's coming from a place of care and to make things better. So it's super interesting. And I think about, on that note, like, you've shared a pretty interesting story about your upbringing. I think
Yep.
I may have called you a man child, but
I
share
call it
that.
I call it the curious case of Benjamin Button.
Yeah,
Right? So,
because that's made you who you are. You know,
Yeah.
it's,
but I think everybody's got that story,
Yeah,
right?
of
So,
course.
and I always say, you know, you can judge me, right? So anybody can judge me, but take 5 minutes and listen to my story.
yeah.
Then you can judge me, right? Because then hopefully you understand who I am and what I'm doing, right? And why I'm doing it. Because, you know, you think about it, you know, you can talk to someone and say, hey, listen now, why have you done this? Or why do you keep, you know, bumping your car? But you don't know. Maybe they can't see, or, you know, you take that time.
Something
And, I mean,
there.
yes, my story is very different, right? So I don't think I'm in the lesser percentage with my story. You know, I grew up and I have two brothers, one older, one younger, and they're both disabled, right? So, and so when you grow up very differently, right? So you have to be self-sufficient at a very young age.
Responsible, kind.
Absolutely, right? So, I mean, I would never forget this, and it's interesting how you remember. Well, I'm going to call it a small item, but at the age of 6, you know, I was given a letter to walk to the dentist, right, on my own, right? So you walk 3 or 4 kilometers, you know, to the dentist because, you know, no one can go with you because, you know, someone needs to be at home. So I think it does make you think differently. You tidy up your room, you tidy up everybody else's room, right? Because, you know, they're not necessarily responsible for what they're doing. So, I mean, that it does make you different. Does it make you good or bad? I don't think that defines you, but I think, you know, helping your parents, you know, taking that burden off them, that defines you. And, you know, if you want it or not, you know, you've got one or two choices. You either walk away or you help, right? So, and I think, you know, for me, it was. I don't think I see two choices. For me, there's really only one choice, right? So you help, and I think that's who we are and who we should be and who we should be striving to be. To be honest, I mean, I think one good example, probably recent, and I'm going back to 2020. During COVID, you know, COVID in South Africa, you know, third world country. You know, great healthcare, you know, no issues, but that country in particular were hit pretty bad with COVID. My younger brother had COVID, very, very bad. They had to give him oxygen at home, and remember, being disabled can't, you know, speak for themselves and can't help themselves. So, you know, it's a situation where you know, I'm sitting on this side of the globe, and you can't travel in any ways, right? So that was COVID, and sure, you know, other people have very bad stories during COVID, but for us it was, like I said, you're on the other side of the world, you can't travel, you hear these stories, and, you know, every half an hour, no, it's you know, we need to increase the oxygen, and what do we do? And then eventually they had to phone an ambulance and take him to hospital, and state hospital. Now, state hospital here in Australia is very different to a state hospital in South Africa, as you can imagine. And they had no beds, right? So they basically had tents, oxygen tents, you know, in the reception areas and, you know, down at in the hospital. So, you know, that was hard because my mum had to go along, and then they said, no, you can't, right? So you need to stay. You're not allowed to go in the hospital because it's, you know, it's critical. So that was really hard. You know, you talk about someone who is in a very, very vulnerable position, you know, can't speak for themselves, you know, on machines and oxygen. And to me, it was just so incredible that because they helped him without understanding him and got through the process within 3 or 4 days, he was out of the hospital. You know, all he needed was care, right? So, and it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you know, rich, poor, you know, be kind and, you know, care for someone, you know, and I think that to me was probably a turning point in my job and how I how I behave in my job, you know, and I guess outside my job as well, right? So, if someone's in need, what is it just to, are you going to walk past someone that's suffering in the car park, or are you going to stop and help, right? So,
Yeah.
and it's a quick decision. It's literally a decision, and I think you should always try and help if you can, right? Don't put yourself in a compromising position, but I think we should help, and I think if you can do that at home, you can do that in your job, and sometimes when you're helping someone, it's 5 minutes extra, right? So it's not, you probably weigh it up in your life and you say, oh, I really don't have an hour, but can you ask someone else to help, or whatever? Can you call someone or whatever? So I think that was probably a turning point for me. Like I said, I grew up, you had to fend for yourself for a long period of time, curious case of Benjamin Button. But I think in 2019, 2020, during COVID, that was a turning point for me, and I couldn't pinpoint what that was, but then, after our talk in Albion, I really took probably 48 hours, and it bugged me, right? I'm like, where did this change happen? Where did it occur? And as soon as I knew, that's when I called you, right? And I sent you a message. I'm like, I know, and because it was important for me to understand, where that originated from.
And that in itself, you're not taking things for face value. You've got that genuine curiosity with everything, not just technology. That's a small percentage of what you do. But you said as we were walking in here, everyone's got a story. Take 2 minutes to understand. That's your story, and this is where empathy and work ethic is built. And then, I would love you to share. I cast my mind back. I'm walking into the office and here you gents are talking cutovers and all sorts of things. And I hand on heart, just before I continue the story, I do not think Kira know what you've actually done. And when there's problems in IT, everyone hears about it, it's all on your shoulders. When there's no problems, no news is good news. We said it today, and it's like, does anyone know what you've done? And same with NTAT, you're in the trenches together, but so you three are standing there and you're chatting about, God knows what. And I walked in and we were chatting about partnership, and boom, we were, straight quite deep. And if you can share what you said to me and what you shared at the kickoff, because it was around decisions and how every time you make a decision, you've got this meaningful saying in your brain. And I started that day at work and I put my big girl pants on and was very inspired and very grounded in that. It's very on theme with what you're saying.
But I think, to be honest, if every single person can think like that, then I don't think we're going to have wars, to be honest, right? Because for me it's kind of simple, right? So anything you do, never think about yourself, right? So put yourself second. I know there's this whole trend of me, but
self-care.
Can we just take a moment and forget about me and think about the other person? Because once you start thinking about the other person and you're doing something for the other person, it actually helps you, right? So it will heal you, because and to me, I constantly say this in the office. If you need to go home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and that's your knock-off time, that's fair. That's your time. But if someone's in need in that situation, if a hospital calls and say, hey, listen, the telephones aren't working or something, just think about it this way. On the other side of that counter is your parent. It's either your mum or your dad. They don't want to be there, right? So no one in healthcare is going to a hospital because they've got nowhere else to go, right? So they could have gone to the shopping mall, to be honest, but
gone to fine dining.
Exactly. So if someone's going into a hospital and they're there for care, they are already nervous. Right? So they basically, they don't want to be there, they know they have to be there, they're going there for procedure. Remember that when you're helping them, because whatever you do in IT, it's not a small item. Because think about the impact. If I'm impacting someone at reception, I'm potentially directly impacting a customer. If I'm impacting someone at the back, Are they potentially working with a customer? They're probably not as important. If someone has a password issue, right, are you going to ignore them or are you going to help them? What position are they in? Are they facing or helping a customer? If someone in reception has an issue or in administration, well, there's a customer standing in front of them.
Yeah.
They're already nervous.
Yeah.
So for me, ask a couple of questions, and if you can pass them on to someone else and it's not that critical, then fine. But for me, that first line of defense, think about the person on the other side of that desk. And if you are confident that there's no one that is impacted, then your decision is your decision. But if there's a parent or a kid or elderly on the other side, well, think about that for a minute, because it only requires you to help them for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So really, it's not going to have a major impact on your life.
It's amazing to think about your career, and you've gone, from aviation into healthcare, and we talked to lots of technical C-levels, and your mindset is quite refreshing, and it's almost agile that you've gone from 2 completely different industries, and you've all of a sudden just intimately connected yourself to the purpose. And hey, Thea, any decision I make, there's a mum at the end of that, and that, in front of the 2 technical engineers, Charl from Curaday says that, I'll look over to the gents. No. So, don't underestimate your influence on statements like that, because it's super, super powerful. And, on that note, I would love to ask you about the whole Fortinet piece, and, the top 4 quadrants, and, you're moving from this industry to the next industry, and then making such impactful, strategic, technical decisions. And talk to me about that. Like, what happened into the lead up of that, and what made you land on choosing such a top quadrant.
Like, I guess let's go back to the start, right?
Yeah.
So when we started the first time, we had a very different solution, and we had a secure network, and that was fine originally, and so we had some failed telephone systems, and it's purely network, right? So because we had such a mixture of vendors involved, so when we had that first discussion, we're like, okay, let's address that piece. Let's not, we need to behave like ducks, right? So we like kick and scream, and in IT, you kick and scream, and everybody else, it appears like you calm, and we're just, everything's fine, nothing to see over here. And I think that's exactly what we did. So when we partnered with Intag originally, we rolled out a product called Cradle Points, and the Cradle Points was fantastic because the system would automatically fail over to your 4G, and no one would even know. They're like, oh, internet's slow. Well, you don't know, it's actually down.
No news is good news.
Yeah. So, to be honest, in the 3-year mark of having the Cradle Points in, there was probably one facility that noticed, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about 36 months, 29 hospitals, and 1 noticed, right? Of 1 outage potentially, right? Because the only reason that happened is if the system is out for long enough, you've got a cap on the amount of data that you can use. If that cap is not unlimited, it would then stop working because you need to refresh. So we addressed that and then never had any issues. But that was fine, and to be honest, we could have left it. And then I quite like having the drive up here, having a sit down with Andrew, we're just spitballing, what is next, we always talk about what's next. And then we had the technical team in the room, and, Peter said to me, really, you're going to do this again? And I'm like, of course I am, right? So, because we're talking about what's next. And we were under a global organization, and the global organization had all the security and everything else. So when we knew that we were going to move away from them, we're like, okay, wait a minute, we need to probably put a focus on cybersecurity, and we probably need to behave like adults now, right? So then we had a discussion. We had Peter and Chris and Andrew in the session, we said, hey, listen, there's this software, or this hardware and software, Fortinet, they're in the top 4, Gartner quadrant. Let's have a look at that. So what I do is I never make a quick decision. I go away, I do some reading, I phone a friend, phone multiple friends in this instance. I got an invitation to the Gartner Symposium. And I went to a couple of stalls, and I went to the Fortinet stall, and I made some friends there, because there was a couple of guys where I started talking, and they're like, oh, what are you interested in? And because I have NTAG in the back of my mind, I know which direction I'm going, more or less, but I needed validation.
Of course.
So it's a big decision, and so I started talking to them. I met the Fortinet CISO, and they said, oh, you can do this, you can do this. I'm going to put you in contact with a technical team. Anyways, I reached out to them, had some conversations with them, and then I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing next. And then I called the team and I said, okay, let's do this. What does this look like? Okay. And then Peter said again, are you really going to roll out this again? Because on top of that, we were also then going to change. We're going to take out the secure links, and we're going to implement the new fiber. So that means for 29 times, actually this time 30 times, we're going to have to be involved with Telstra. We're going to have to get the text to all call me and say, hey, we're going to do a site visit, so go through that process. So super painful, but it's like basic training. You hate it in the moment, but you love the story afterwards, right? So, and then of course, we talked about, okay, how is this going to play out? We did the project plan. How's this going to play out? Who's going to do it? And they were organising external contractors to go and do the implementation. And I said, no, I think I'll do it, right? So, and they're like, why would you travel across the country, all over the country, to go and implement this as a technical person, right? So, and I think for me, it's not. That was one piece, right? So that was the easy piece. That to me is the easy piece. I am a firm believer that you cannot ask someone to do something if you haven't experienced the pain yourself. So to me, if I've done the first one, I'm like, oh, okay, it takes about a half an hour, this is what it's going to look like, then maybe I can send a contractor. But then I miss the opportunity to go to a site and talk to the CEOs and talk to the staff. Is there anything else we can do, right? Is there anything else we can fix? Can we clean up the contract, right? So, oh yeah, that's been a mess for months, but no one's actually responding to our email or whatever, right? So it gives you that opportunity to one, build the relationship again, and for them to say, hey, listen now, the door's open. Don't take the mickey, right? So don't call me for a password change, but the door is open, right? So I think that is important, because I knew that I had to start writing my next roadmap. So why would you not go to the source, understand where they have issues, and then build your roadmap from there? Because the roadmap is nothing to do with me, right? So I don't really care. I can leave everything as is, and if it breaks, it fixes it, right? But that's not how I like to operate. Let's give someone whatever they deserve and whatever they're asking. I'm not saying we spoil them, because someone needs to pay for it, right? But at the end of the day, what is the needs? What is the business needs? I always say to the organisation, I don't want to implement anything. I can just stay static. Tell me what is your next needs? What is your strategy? And I will align with it, right? So I will not try and spend money, because that's not who I am. I spend the money as if it's my money. But it's about, what does the business need? And then also, how do we make it easier for that patient? Remember that piece, because everything else is easy from there, right? If you work backwards from the patient, then everything else is pretty simple.
Oh my God. I think the call out is, though, it's not just understanding the problems, but have a forward think and thinking, you're saying what's next. It's one, it's strategic, but two, it's premeditating issues before they arise. And with technology, you do have to root things out, as you know more than anyone, but because otherwise it would be on your shoulders, and you haven't pioneered that and thought, what's next. So super interesting. Oh my goodness. I think I would love you to share the service, pick a service story, any service story, and please share it, because I'm listening to you two today. Oh yeah, well, call me when I'm in the cab and do the cut over then in the morning. My flight's at 6. Okay, yeah, well, I'll do it then. And what's the chance of it not working?
So I think the one that comes to mind is flying to Perth, right? So immediately flying to Perth, that's it's like either 7 days on a horse or 5 hours on a plane. So you get there and it's raining. So I get there at night, and what I tried to do, I guess I tried to think of the other person on the other side of the line, right? So Peter is on the other side of the line. He's in Queensland. So I picked Perth, Canberra, and Victoria, all public holidays on the Monday. So that way he doesn't have to work at night, right? So I picked that on purpose. So I'm like, okay, perfect. There's no one in the facility. I won't disrupt the patients. I won't disrupt anybody in the facility.
Yeah.
I'm the only one there. And then basically the next day, everything's hunky-dory and no one knew that anything happened, right? So beautiful story, beautiful thought. Anyways, arrived in Perth on the Sunday. It's raining, get to the hotel, and I'm mapping this out. So the night before, I'm basically mapping it out. Okay, do I take an Uber? It's a public holiday. Do I take a taxi, Uber? It's about 3 kilometers that way. Then the next one is pretty close. And then the next one, if you go back in the triangle, it's another 3 kilometers. It's a slight drizzle, so I'm gonna walk. I've got a work pack with all the tools and everything else that I acquired along the way, with lessons learned from previous mistakes. And Peter's like, really?
I'm stressed. I haven't heard this story. I'm on the edge of my seat.
You've got different cables for different switches, and this one will only fit in this one. So anyways, so along the line I had to pick up different cables. So I'm like, hopefully I've got everything sorted out. I've got a screwdriver, to dismount this. I'm like, okay, sweet. Public holiday, beautiful. Slight drizzle. I leave early. I'm going to try and do 3 sites in one day. Peter, I know there's a 2-hour time difference, so I will leave at 6 a.m. in the morning. I will walk 6 a.m. in the morning, so that way I will call you at 8:30. Sweet. So we're ready to go. So I pick first. I pick West Leederville first. I go into the facility, get up, make myself a coffee, unpack everything. We've got a sequence of events. Peter says, okay, we're doing it. This is our checklist. We need to run through the checklist. This is what we need to do. First site. We can access the server room, but we actually need to get to the comms room of the building, which I cannot access on a public holiday. That's in the garage, and I cannot access. So that's site number 1. So fantastic. I wasted their coffee. I feel better about myself. I need to pack up. I'm like, okay, we're running out of time. Sorry, Peter. Let's move on to the next one. Once again, I still make the most of the time, because they also had some Wi-Fi access issues. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm here. So I'm going to walk through facilities. I'm going to take some videos of where they're located, where's the issue. One of the doctors had an issue, and he's saying, listen, we're actually affecting a patient. If we don't address this, I'm like, okay. The message I got across was very different. I'm in the facility, I might as well make the best of it. Peter, just give me an hour or so. I'm just going to go through. I'm going to do a little bit of scouting. I want to address this piece. So get all of that, get some videos, photos, everything. I'm like, okay, I can now call Brisbane. I'm like, guys, prepare this. We're going to implement this. I think we can address this doctor. While I'm here, bang, okay, sweet. Unfortunately, we've now wasted an hour and a half. I go across the road to another facility, and same story. No. Yes, sorry, same story. So walk through a facility, open up the comms rack. Oh, no, not going to work.
Oh.
There's another comms room somewhere in the building. There's no one else in the building. I'm the only person there.
Yeah.
It's a public holiday.
Oh.
I'm like, okay, site number 2. If this is baseball, I am going to have a very bad run. Okay, that was pretty cruisy because it's only 3 kilometers out in slight drizzle. Now the drizzle is turned up a bit. Someone has opened up a tap a little bit. I've got my work bag and I've got my backpack with the laptop. I'm going to walk back to the other side of the triangle, which is 3 kilometers.
Yeah.
Get there. The badge they gave me does not work on public holidays or weekends.
Locked you down.
Locked me out.
And down.
I'm sitting. I am now site 3 out of 3 sites, and I can't get into the facility. So I have to call the CEO, who's an hour away. The CEO drives in, opens up the facility, very helpful, went through the process. I could do my first piece. I'm like, okay, all I need is give me another pass, and then you can go. I don't want to disrupt your public holiday. You know, I appreciate, you know, the fact that you've helped me out with this. Now, Pete's in the dark, right? So I'm like, Pete, I'm sorry, but site 2 didn't work. Site 3, I can't get in. And then at the same time, I had a scheduled meeting with Telstra. And the person with Telstra is trying to sell. I'm like, mate, not today. Not today.
Not ever, but especially not today.
Not today, right? So anyways, get into the facility, get a pass. I'm like, sweet. This person, the CEO, also have a key to the other facility.
Yeah.
I'm like, awesome. Maybe we can do 2 out of the 3 today.
Yeah.
Because then tomorrow's not a public holiday. I need to do work during the day, and then that night do a little bit of work, because the next day I'm flying to Melbourne. So you time, right? So there's time clock here. So go to the other facility, open up. We open up every single door. But like the bloody bears, you know, the porridge is always too hot, and we miss one door.
Which is the comms room. Oh no!
Every other one, this is the comms room, this is the comms room. No, we've seen stuff in here. There's the electrical room, but not that room. Anyways, so I go back to the first facility. I'm like, I'm on my own, get that sorted out. Great. One facility out of the 3 on day 1. I'm like, okay, we're now at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 o'clock to, you know, Brisbane time. Pete, you can go now. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. I'll let you know where we are.
Sweet dreams.
So the next day I have to go back. Now you're dealing with, there's going to be an outage, right? I'm going to have to take them out, right? So, and you don't want to affect patients, you don't want to affect staff. So, you know, how do we do this? So I go to the one facility and I'm like, hey, listen, where's the comms room? And they're like, oh yeah, we believe we know where it is. We find it. I'm like, sweet. I'm like, Peter, we found the comms room. He said, okay, just let me know. So I do my first piece in the comms room, and then he said, okay, so what is our time slot? So I go back to the facility manager or the CEO and I said, hey, listen now, this is my situation. I can do this at night. I've got this time, but someone needs to keep the facility open. It can take 15 minutes or it can take a half an hour or whatever. The longer I have, the more I can do for you, right? So, because it's not about me, it's about you, right? So, anyways, I'm in the rack. There's no lighting, right? And I've got this cable. Yep, this is the cable, and I'm pressing the cable, and I'm like, okay, I think I've got this. And I called Peter and I said, hey, listen, now I've spoken to the site. They have a gap between patients. Between 11:30 and 1 o'clock, no patients. So we have a gap, but everything has to go according to plan. So I will run downstairs, activate that piece, come upstairs, plug that in, connect the laptop, and there we go. Anyways, it's a beautiful idea. I press the cable, and I press the reset button, and it takes the network down.
Oh!
Anyways.
What? Stressed.
Anyways, an hour later, after jumping in an Uber and buying a new cable, the correct cable, coming back and then connecting it, we now only have 15 minutes left.
Oh my
We did it
gosh.
without affecting them.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yes!
But-
How do I not know this story?
Well, I tell you
I've heard
what.
snippets of the story, but not in its entirety.
That's
Oh
not
my
the end of
goodness.
it. It's not the end.
Oh no, leave on a happy note.
We have one more site.
Oh,
So now it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
yeah.
We have one more site,
Mm-hmm.
and it is Perth time, so it's now 4 o'clock in Brisbane. I'm like, Pete, I'm sorry about this, but you're going to have to stay with me. So anyways, I found this magic room and go to the room, and I plug in the cable. He said, okay, I've done my config. Whenever you're ready, find out when that is. I'm like, okay, sweet. I go to the site and I'm like, hey guys, I apologize now, but regardless if you have patience or not, can you give me a 15-minute slot?
Yeah. It's all
Right,
you ask.
we're
You're not
gonna-
asking for much.
We will, I promise you, with my hand and my heart's on the other side, but with my hand and my heart, we will not break it, right? Anyways, I go into this comms room and they've got you lock the comms room behind you, and I connect the laptop, I connect everything, and I'm like, Peter, hey, listen, now, everything's good to go. You can do the config, the laptop's connected. He's like, okay, the switch is good to go. Let me just grab another cable. And the server door closes
No.
with a key inside.
No. No.
Anyways, you wanted to end up on a high note, right? So, yeah, so that's that was Perth. I tried wire underneath the door to try and grab the keys. I'm like, Peter, I will call you back. Anyways, we got the site back up. The site they were very understanding. We got them up prior to that happening,
Yeah.
but it was half done. So it wasn't perfect like we wanted it to be, but anyways, that was Perth. So, you know, a special place in our diary. But yeah, I mean, every site has its own story. You know, some of them are super difficult. You know, the cabling is a mess. You know, you try and fix the cabling, you're trying to get the plug in the back. You've got your hand in there and you're like, I think that's power. And you plug it in, the next moment everything goes out. Luckily it's at night, but you take out everything.
You're in a little mini cloud strike.
Yeah. Anyways, that was, yeah, so to be honest, if someone says to me, hey, listen, now we need to do this again, I'll do it again.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that is the most inspiring thing.
Yeah.
Don't ever be afraid to get your hands dirty. It's just
No,
like
and
amazing.
it goes back to knowing your reason, understanding your reason.
Yeah.
Once you understand your reason, everything else is easy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, my reason was never about the SD-WAN, never about the Fortinet. It was about that opportunity to go to the facility and say, hey, listen, I won't cause any disruption. I will just be in the background, but if you have anything else that you want to share with me, I'm here, right? I'll listen, right? So, so once again, understanding your reason, understand that why, right? So,
Yeah, it's purpose.
if you do that every single day,
Yeah.
why am I going to work? What am I doing? What am I achieving?
Yeah.
Not every day is a rosy day at work, right?
Yeah.
We all know that.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got, you know, tough meetings, tough days, you know, curveballs, but, you know, understanding why you're doing something, why not to give up, you know, have someone that you're doing it for.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, in our job, you know, in healthcare, the why is easy.
Yeah.
The why is on the other side of the counter.
But it's like you've got a three-pronged approach. You're there to do the tech, you're building a partnership with NTAG, you're connecting with the end user, and you know, they haven't just got Charlie for this. You've gone, okay, well, how do I, and then this is your upbringing, obviously, with your brothers. It's like, I'm not just going to do this, I'm going to embrace it. And really, it's so inspiring. And I have one more question, and this is probably one of my favourites, and it sometimes takes us by surprise. Where did you get your absolutely wicked, dry, witty sense of humour from? You wouldn't be you without it, and it keeps us all on our toes. You'll just say something really dry and we'll say, what? It's never a dull moment. You know, you're finding the joy in the situation and keeping us all, you know, on our toes and being quick-witted. Where does this come from?
To be honest, I think it's a very South African thing.
Yeah.
You know, they've got we've gone through tough times, over, the history and even today. And I think that's something everybody's got in common, right? So if you look at, you look at an election, you look at, a rugby loss or something that's happened over the weekend or whatever, the papers are on it, right? So, Nando's Chicken, they make all these, quirky ads, right? So they're on it, right? So, and I think that to me, that's funny, right? So you never try and be funny. If you're going to try and be funny, you're not funny, right? So at the end of the day, just be quick on your feet. And to be honest, I think, who would you rather be in the room with? Someone that's grumpy, that, in the moment, you spill your coffee. Do you laugh or do you go angry, right? So there's nothing you can do. You can't take it back, right? So you might as well...
If I may interrupt, you don't just laugh, you'll make sure someone else laughs. It's not about Charl. It's like, well, I could laugh at this or I could be crazy. You take it one step further. It's like, well, I'm going to make you feel good. I'm going to make you laugh.
But I think it's not...
amazing.
I go back to... And I don't know what that is, or, I guess it's, it's me, but it's not about me, right? It's about the other person. Put the other person first. And then, if they don't laugh, well, now you're offending me, right? So, so we can't be friends if you don't, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, see the funny in the moment, and I think that gets us through, stressful days, right? So I think it is important. I mean, if you ask me, what would you rather watch on TV? I mean, it's always going to be a comedy, right? So, I mean, there's so many of my favourite movies would be a comedy rather than a drama, right? So yes, there's always a time and a place, and it depends on what kind of mood you're in and what you're trying to achieve. But sometimes you would watch a drama because of the other person or because of the story that you know about them, right? And you're watching that drama because of them, or for you, there's a story within it, right? But a comedy is for watching someone else laugh at it. What's interesting about comedy and laughter, different people laugh at different things. You could watch a movie and that person is just laughing, and you're like, why are you laughing?
Funny.
And then sometimes you have a giggle and you're like, what? And it's just a byproduct, or you're laughing because they laughed 5 minutes ago, right? So I think, it's important to laugh, and, because if we stop laughing and drink red wine, I think we've got no purpose, right? So.
Well, I think you'll find purpose no matter what you do, and it's a wrap with Coffee with Charlie, and I can't wait for the next one. It's been an honour to do it. There's so many more topics we could peel underneath, but a massive thank you. Thank you for your humour. Thanks for being you, and here's cheers to a partnership wherever it may take us.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks, Emma. So interesting for you too.
I was trying to get your attention.
Yeah. Right. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I
We're
just wanted
bang
to
on, aren't we?
Perfect. Yeah,
There you go.
Okay.
We did well.
I just wanted to